After years in Congress I never expected. My greatest fight would be with my own HOA when they shot my service dog Max. For lowering property values and destroyed my life, but when they discovered who I really was and what power I held, their perfectly manicured world came crashing down. But would justice for Max come at the cost of my own career? Comment below where you're watching from. I still remember the day I moved into OK State's my dream home with its perfect little garden where Max, my service dog, could finally have space to play the golden retriever who'd saved my life countless times during my darkest moments after returning from overseas. If only I'd known that garden would become a battlefield. The first week was peaceful. I kept to myself, working remotely on housing bills that nobody knew about. That's how I liked it, just another homeowner trying to live quietly. Max would help me through my PTSD episodes, his gentle presence keeping the memories at bay while I served in Congress under the radar. The neighbors smiled and waved, probably thinking I was just another work from home professional. Then came the first note, a pink piece of paper stuck to my door with writing so angry it had torn through in places. Unauthorized pet violation of HOA codes. I couldn't help but laugh at first. They clearly hadn't done their homework about service animal laws. I pulled out my phone to take a picture when I heard that voice for the first time. You must be the new neighbor breaking our rules. The woman marching across my lawn had that look, perfectly styled hair, designer yoga outfit, and a face twisted with the kind of entitlement that money can't buy. I'm Karen Martinez, HOA Community Standards Committee Chair, she announced, as if she were declaring herself queen. I kept my voice calm, years of congressional debates coming in handy. Nice to meet you, I'm James and this is Max, my service dog. I reached for his papers, but she was already shaking her head. We don't allow large dogs here, they destroy property values. Barbara Thompson, our HOA president, has very specific guidelines about this. Karen's eyes narrowed at Max, who sat perfectly still beside me. And really, you don't look disabled. My hand tightened on Max's leash. Not all wounds are visible, I wanted to tell her. Instead I smiled. I understand your concern, but service animals are protected under federal law. I have the proper documentation. She pulled out her phone, snapping pictures of my house, my garden, and Max will see about that. This isn't over. Karen stormed off, her designer sneakers leaving little dents in my freshly watered lawn. That night I couldn't sleep. Max sensed my anxiety, staying closer than usual. I'd face down hostile foreign governments, argued bills on the House floor, but something about Karen's threat felt different, personal. While Max dozed beside my desk, I pulled up OK State's HOA regulations, scanning for any mention of service animals. Nothing. They never even considered it. The next morning I found my garden fence spray painted with the word violation in bright red. Through my security camera footage I watched Karen directing someone to do it at 6 a.m. The paint was still wet when I touched it, and Max's paw prints tracked red across the sidewalk, exactly what they wanted. I was drafting an email to the HOA board when another knock came. This time it was Barbara Thompson herself, clutching a thick folder of complaints. She barely looked at me, her eyes fixed on Max with disgust. Mr. Sullivan, we pride ourselves on maintaining certain standards here, she began, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable in another neighborhood. I felt Max press against my leg, grounding me like he always did during anxiety attacks. That's when I saw Karen in the background filming everything on her phone, probably waiting for me to lose my temper. They had no idea who they were dealing with or the laws they were breaking, but for now I needed to play this smart. Thank you for your concern, Barbara. I'll review these complaints carefully. I accepted the folder with my congressional poker face, the same one I'd used during intense committee hearings. By the way, does the HOA have insurance for federal housing law violations? Her smile flickered for Just a second behind her, Karen stopped. Filming, neither of them knew it yet, but they just started a war they couldn't win. As I closed the door, I heard them whispering frantically. Max looked up at me with those knowing eyes, and I scratched behind his ears. Don't worry, buddy, they have no idea what's coming. That night, more neighbors reported mysterious property damage to the HOA. All homes near mine. I watched through my window as Karen led Barbara around, pointing at houses, taking photos. My security cameras caught everything. The pieces were falling into place, but I had a sinking feeling this was just the beginning. What they did next would change everything, not just for me and Max, but for thousands of homeowners across America. Footage of the shooting. My phone buzzed again. Messages flooded in from other members of Congress, the media, veteran groups, and disability advocates. Justice for Max was trending nationwide. The young vet tech who'd taken Max back appeared still in her bloody scrubs. I rushed to her, my heart in my throat. Barbara and Karen fell silent, probably realizing just how much trouble they were in. He's stable, the vet tech said softly. The bullet missed his vital organs, but he'll need surgery. Dr. Patterson wants to talk to you about the procedure. Relief flooded through me, but anger quickly followed. I turned to Barbara and Karen, who were now huddled together near the exit. I've spent the last year working on housing reform legislation, but now I'm adding specific provisions about service animals and HOA oversight. Your actions just became exhibit A in congressional hearings. Karen's face crumpled. But our property values are community standards. Your property values? I laughed bitterly. Check your real estate apps. Karen news travels fast. Houses in Oak Estates are already being listed below market value. Turns out shooting a congressman's service dog isn't great for the neighborhood's reputation. Barbara grabbed her phone, frantically scrolling through Zillow. Her guest told me she'd seen the plummeting prices. We can fix this, she pleaded. Weck. Drop all the complaints, pay the vet bills. It's too late, I said, pulling out a folder from my briefcase. This is what justice looks like. Inside were copies of every harassing letter they'd sent, photos of my vandalized garden, and recordings of their discriminatory HOA meetings. The FBI is already investigating. Service animal interference is a federal crime. The vet tech returned. Sir, Dr. Patterson is ready for you. I gathered my things, watching Barbara sink into a chair, her face in her hands. Karen was still frozen, staring at her phone as angry comments flooded the HOA social media pages. As I walked through the doors to see Max, I heard Barbara whisper, "What have we done?" My hand rested on the door handle as I looked back. "One last time you tried to destroy my life and hurt my dog. You thought I was powerless. Now you get to learn what real power looks like. The power of the law. You tried so hard to ignore. The next few hours would change everything, but right now all that mattered was Max." The morning news vans lined our once quiet street like vultures. I watched from my window as Karen Martinez paced her front lawn in her designer yoga pants, desperately trying to shoo away reporters while clutching her phone to her ear. The look of panic on her face was a stark change from her usual smug expression. Max's blood hadn't even dried on my back patio, and already their perfect world was crumbling. My phone buzzed again. Another text from my chief of staff. The story had reached national headlines. Congressman's service dog shot by HOA board member. Social media was exploding with fury. I clicked through Twitter, watching the security camera footage I'd release go viral. The clear audio of Karen screaming about property value seconds before Tom fired the shot was damning. No amount of spin could save them. Now a knock at my door made Max whimper from his bed. His bandaged side was a constant reminder of what they'd done. Through the peephole I saw Barbara Thompson wringing her hands, her usual perfectly styled hair now disheveled. I opened the door just enough to hear her stammered plea. "Congressman Sullivan, Please, we can work something out. We didn't know who you were. Karen was just trying to protect our community standards. Tom made a terrible mistake. What will it take to keep this quiet? I felt a cold smile spread across my face. Protect community standards. Let me show you something, Barbara. I pulled out my tablet, opening the file my team had compiled. Here's every HOA violation notice in OJ states for the past 5 years. Notice anything strange about who received them? Her face went pale as I scrolled through the data. Every single complaint about pets, yard maintenance, and community standards have been filed against minorities, disabled residents, or elderly homeowners on fixed incomes. The pattern was impossible to ignore. This isn't just about Max anymore, I said quietly while you were busy harassing my service dog. My office was investigating HOA abuse across the country. Oak Estates just became Exhibit A. Commotion down the street caught our attention. Karen was now screaming at a report who dared to step onto her precious lawn. You don't understand. Property values are everything. We can't have dogs running around. It attracts the wrong kind of people. The reporter's camera caught every word. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. My phone buzzed again. The housing reform bill I've been quietly working on for months was suddenly gaining massive support. Colleagues who'd been on the fence were now calling to co-sponsor. Funny how a viral video of HOA abuse against a congressman's service dog could change political winds. Barbara was still standing there trembling. What do you want from us? I handed her a thick envelope. Here's your chance to do the right thing. Inside is my proposal for a complete overhaul of Oak Estates governance, new board elections, third-party oversight, and mandatory civil rights training for all board members. Sign it now or I'll add your discrimination data to my congressional testimony next week. She snatched the envelope, but her hand shook so badly she could barely open it. Behind her I saw Tom being led out of his house in handcuffs. The police had finally arrived to arrest him for animal cruelty and reckless discharge of a firearm. Karen was now crying into her phone, probably calling her lawyer. Max limped to my side, his tail wagging weakly as he watched the scene unfold. I scratched behind his ears, remembering all the nights he'd helped me through PTSD episodes. How dare they tried to take him from me? A new text lit up my phone. Photos from a resident showing years of HOA documents being shredded in Barbara's garage last night. More evidence for the investigation. The house of cards was falling faster than they could cover their tracks. Protesters started gathering at the community entrance, holding signs with Max's picture and demanding justice. Local news crews interviewed residents who'd been silenced by HOA threats for years. One elderly woman wept as she described being fined into near bankruptcy for having a wheelchair ramp. A Latino family showed documentation of being cited for cooking odors from traditional family meals. Barbara's hand trembled as she signed the documents. Please, she whispered, my husband's on the city Cunil. This will ruin us. I took the papers, checking each signature. You should have thought of that before shooting a congressman's service dog, but don't worry, you'll have plenty of time to think about it during the federal investigation. As she hurried away, I saw Karen being interviewed on live TV trying to defend herself. I had no idea he was in Congress. We just wanted to maintain our standards. Dogs reduce property values by 15%. The reporter cut her off. Ma'am, are you aware that discriminating against service animals is a federal crime regardless of the owner's position? I closed my door, sitting down heavily next to Max. Tomorrow I'd start turning this nightmare into real change, but tonight, watching through my window as karma did its work, I held Max close and whispered, "We got them, buddy, we finally got them."